should put them all out.
I know, but we just need to film.
Your hearing is deteriorating rapidly.
Trying to save my life.
Reuben, the world does keep moving. It can be a damn cruel place. But those moments of stillness.
Riz, good morning. How are you? Or good afternoon now.
Good, thank you.
Absolutely adored this film. Powerful, emotional. I think it's one of my favorites of the year. And you were just fantastic. And there were so many things that you had to do for this film. I mean, you took drum lessons to start with.
Yeah. So when I met Darius, he said, everything's going to be for real. You know, when you're playing the drums on screen, you're going to be playing the drums for real. And I said, well, what about the signing? You know, I mean, shouldn't I learn how to sign? He goes, yeah, good point. You should probably learn that as well. So I knew then it would be a kind of, you know, a journey that would take most of a year to learn how to do both of those skills passably well. And it was scary. It was challenging. It was maddening, but it was really, really enriching. And ultimately my teachers, my drum teacher and my sign instructor, they kind of taught me so much, not just in terms of those skills, but different ways of communicating. You know, that's what the drums and that's what ASL is. They're nonverbal communication. And as someone who's often a bit of a talker, it opened me up in new ways.
Yeah, there's even a scene where the instructor was saying he was doing this, no voice, because you kept talking. And also you put that extra moment, extra length, but they have an implant to block your hearing and white noise to give you that experience.
For certain moments of the film, just to kind of like dip my toe in the water a little bit, I wanted to kind of just approximate the experience of not being able to hear yourself. And so what we did was we inserted hearing aids into my ear canal and flicked the setting onto white noise. And it was very disorienting, you know, it was very, it's an experience that's difficult to describe. And I guess I just felt like I wanted to understand, just to glimpse the tiniest sliver of what that feels like to understand the shock that Reuben's going through and that many people go through in that situation.
Well, I was having panic attacks and anxiety along with you because especially the first day you're in group and his first dinner, I mean, it was so foreign to me. It blew my mind.
Yeah, you know, I think that's similar to Reuben when he's stepping into this world of this deaf community. He's also feels like an outsider. He feels like he doesn't belong. He feels disoriented. And I think so should we as an audience. But over time, what he realizes is, and as we always realize, you know, with any community that we think we're so different to, that we have so much more in common than what separates us. And actually we can learn so much from the communities that we think have nothing to teach us. And certainly, you know, in terms of the dining room scene, which I think you're talking about.
Yes.
Something that was a big learning experience for me and learning point for all of us is members of the deaf community were saying, well, dinner in a deaf household is very loud often because, you know, people get each other's attention vibrationally through like knocking the table. So you have that wonderful moment, which I think, you know, from the people on set who are deaf telling us, I don't think that's been captured before, you know, the reality of that kind of intimacy.
And shaping your head, one important take.
Yeah. Seems to be something I'm making a habit of, you know, the night of as well. Which is fine by me. I actually really love having a shaved head. It's free and easy.
Well, congratulations. Just an incredible film. Gives me a newfound respect for the deaf community. And thank you for joining me today. And come visit us in Las Vegas. We'd love to have you.
I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Olivia, good morning. Thank you for joining me today.
Good morning. Nice background.
Oh, well, thank you. I did it just for you.
Oh,
I am such a fan of yours. This is a total thrill. I think I've seen Ready Player One about 50 times, you know, so This is a real thrill for me today. So thanks for talking to me about.
Oh, thank you.
This movie was so powerful, and it really gave me an insight into a world that I had no idea, especially from someone who's just becoming deaf and what the anxiety and the panic they're going through. And your character, Lou, she finds herself with her world turned upside down.
Yeah, completely. She's in this band with Ruben, played by the amazing Riz Ahmed, and she finds her codependent relationship and life completely disrupted by Ruben losing his hearing. And I think when you're in a relationship like that, and you know that in order for someone to get better, they need to step away from this relationship and focus solely on making themselves well, because his addictive tendencies and his anxieties and his mental health is really suffering because of it. It's just, you want to do all you can in order to facilitate that.
And being in a punk band, you would think they would be all the stereotypes: drug abuse, fighting, all that kind of. And in the very beginning of the movie, they're in a loving relationship. He makes you breakfast, you slow dance in the camper. I mean, so it just gives that extra layer of love in there that you weren't expecting for such a stereotype of a punk band.
Oh yeah, no, like they find their catharsis through the music, but apart from that, it's just a very nurturing relationship. They're both suffering in their different ways, and they're both trying to keep themselves as sane as possible. So they try and make that as easy for each other as they humanly can.
And you sing punk music pretty good, as well as your French too.
Oh, thank you. Tried very hard.
Riz had to learn to be deaf, and I was wondering, what kind of things did he use to make his character of Ruben? I understood he had to learn sign language and that he wore special implants to mimic white noise.
Yeah, he did. He learned ASL. He did have these in-ears that would play white noise to him. So, and he would wear them as soon as he got on to the makeup truck in the morning. He would, and I'd forget that he had them in, and so I'd shout down to him, did you have a nice night last night? And I'd be like, I just wouldn't, and he'd be like, what? And I'd be like, oh shit, sorry. But then, you, as someone who doesn't sign, and also playing a character who doesn't sign as well, it was, you're then trying to communicate in a way that's foreign to you.
Well, it's a powerful film, incredible film. I mean, it's one of my favorites of the year. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Paul, good afternoon from Las Vegas. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Jeffrey. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. What an emotional film. What a powerful film. I just absolutely loved it. You were fantastic in it. And I just have a whole new respect for the deaf community. And because this really took me somewhere where, and I have some deaf friends, and I never knew this journey that they went on if you became deaf, like the character in Sound of Metal. I mean, I had anxiety through this whole movie.
Yeah. That's another interesting thing. Joe has this sober house, and what people don't really realize is now when I was interpreting in sober houses in the 80s and 90s, they were run by hearing people. But now today in Los Angeles, there's a place here called Awakenings. It's deaf owned and deaf run, and it's for deaf only addicts. So this idea of Joe opening up an addiction house for only deaf people is a great idea. And it's happening for real in real life here in Los Angeles.
And the character of Joe, it just seems tailor-made for you. I mean, certain actors have the role of a lifetime. I mean, everything in your real life mirrors your character in this movie.
Right. I was just saying, I moved out to LA in 1990. I've been doing 99-seat theaters out here. Never had a leading role. I've been a day player out here. And so talk about role of a lifetime. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I've had addictions. I've grown up with deaf people. So very close to me. Yes, very close. Very emotional to have this kind of role occur.
And the line in Sound of Metal that hit me the most was when Joe was saying, being deaf is not a handicap or something to fix.
Yes. Yes. And that, when I grew up in the 50s in Chicago, my parents had that feeling of the hearing man is got control of my life. The hearing man, the hearing guy. My father would talk about the hearing guy doing stuff to me. And when I moved out here in 1990, I noticed deaf people starting to say, wait a second, don't fix me. There's nothing to fix here. I'm perfect the way I am. You're disabled. You can't speak my language. And that attitude has just gotten stronger and stronger to where now you've got a place like Deaf West Theater out here where people do deaf run and directed plays.
The character of Ruben, how did Riz do? He had to learn sign language for the movie. How did he do?
Great. Yeah, he had to learn it, and he did a great job. I can't say enough about the way he approaches. I saw him approach this role. He's a great actor, and he did very well.
And like I said, I have a newfound respect for the deaf community and the newly deaf, especially because the use of the sound, and you were placed in his position of losing his hearing. And, I always worry about my hearing. Being a film critic for 25 years, we see so many movies with the digital sound and it's so loud. I'm always worried that's going to affect my hearing someday.
Well, and that's because I've been in rock bands for many, many years. I've always had to protect my ears. I think if you come away from this movie realizing that your hearing is a very cherished sense, and it's sensitive, and you should be careful about it, not cavalier about it, because it can easily be damaged.
Well, one thing I'll tell you this much, Paul, is that it's reassuring that people like you are out there to guide the way. It makes me feel a lot more comfortable.
Oh man, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. This is a miracle for me, so I'm just happy to be here.
Well, congratulations on the film, and come visit us in Las Vegas. We'd love to have you someday.
Hey, I come there once in a while. Maybe I'll do that.
Awesome, Paul. Take care, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
Darius, good afternoon from Las Vegas. It's Jeff.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing so good. Your movie was so emotional, so powerful, and with all due respect, I just loved it. And it's one of my favorite films of the year. It's incredible.
Oh man, thank you so much.
I have friends who are deaf, didn't know what someone who was newly deaf would go through. I mean, I had such anxiety in this movie. I mean, you put me right in Ruben's place for most of this film. And is there a personal connection to this kind of story for you, or?
Well, there is. I dedicated the film to my grandmother who took an antibiotic and she went deaf. And, we as her family watched that happen. She was an alcoholic. We watched her get consumed by what that meant and to be disconnected from her hearing culture, but not connected to her deaf culture. And so this was definitely in there for me. But I also think, we all, the story always felt universal because we all know, especially now, what it feels like to have our identities challenged. And in a funny way, we're all addicted to our identities. We all have that. So I've gone through very difficult and dark times when I've felt challenged by those things. And now here we are globally all dealing with it.
And finding the character of Ruben and finding Riz, I mean, because the movie all depends on the right actor. And he was just phenomenal.
What a gift for me. I mean, it was a very long casting process, and I worked hard to scare the crap out of every actor I ever met for this role. I really did, much to the chagrin of people that were working with me, because I really wanted to see who was up for it. And I had a crazy process that I wanted to do with this movie. And I wanted someone who was really wanting that journey and wanting this creative experience. And Riz is just up for it in a way that's hard to even express. I mean, once he signed on, he committed fully, you know, and that meant shutting the world out. That meant not taking other projects. That meant 7-8 months of like grueling work before we shot to learn how to inhabit this character.
Yeah, because you shot this movie in 4 weeks and 23 weeks to mix the movie, which was longer than the actual production.
It was. And, you know, that's what's so fascinating is we shot it chronologically, and like life, it just came and went. So what you see on the screen had everything to do with, you know, 10 years of making the movie, 10 years of getting that movie ready, so much thought, so much intentionality, and then months and months from Riz. And then when you finally get it, it's like, it's here and gone, you know? And
it was essential for you to cast hard of hearing and deaf actors for this movie, wasn't it?
I really lived and died by it. I remember once being asked if I would meet with Robert Duvall for the role of Joe. And I remember saying to the agent who asked me, no, I'm not meeting with Robert Duvall. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm not saying no to Robert Duvall, and I'm going to say no to Robert Duvall. So I can't meet with him.
You said yes to Paul, who's fantastic, by the way. He was just phenomenal.
I mean, Paul may be one of the very great undiscovered actors of our time. I mean, he's not only this character in spades and a 2-time Vietnam vet and dealt with addiction and all the rest of it, but this man is one of the most talented actors I've ever even seen in a room.
And finally today, where'd you find that tour bus? It was so cool.
That took some time, found it in Massachusetts. I actually drove it myself across the state right before we shot. It was awesome. I miss it.
It was like the star of the movie. I was like, whoa, man. And when he drove it away to sell it, I'm like, no.
Well, that's always how, you know, my brother and I, when we were writing this, we always said, man, we got to love that thing so much that when he sells it, you can't stand it, you know, just to lose that jewel.
Well, Darius, I have a whole newfound respect for deaf people and what they go through. And this just opened my eyes at one of the most powerful films I've seen in a long time. Thank you so much for joining me today, and come visit us in Las Vegas soon. We'd love to have you.
I would love to. I hope to soon. Thanks so much.